What's up guys, Kevin Cage here with another crypto update. Hope everybody had an awesome Thanksgiving for those that celebrate, and let's run through some recent news. First up, looking at the Bitcoin monthly price chart and comparing the previous two cycles, and just looking at its monthly RSI or momentum when it was at its peak. From its all-time high of the RSI on the monthly time frame, we can see it took over 1,000 days until Bitcoin broke into a new high. And we saw the same thing from Bitcoin's all-time high back in 2017 up until 2020. From the peak of its monthly RSI until breaking into a new all-time high price on the price chart, this took over 1,000 days. So instead of just looking at the all-time high for Bitcoin at 69K, if we simply look at the oscillators or the monthly RSI when it was at its peak here, here, and here. If we rhymed with the previous two cycles, that means we could see an all-time high price in 2024. Using that same measurement, we're around 975 days, so almost up to 1,000. And if we took just as long as this cycle in 2013 to 2017, over 1,200 days, that would still take us around July or August of 2024. And whether you believe in the Bitcoin halving or any other narratives that we see every few years, one thing is absolutely certain, it is that the crypto asset class moves in cycles. We have the Bitcoin halving approximately every 4 years. We have the US election cycle every 4 years. We also have Raoul Pal pointing out the debt refinancing cycle is approximately every 4 years, and we have all of these events tied very closely together. I remember Sentiment exactly in 2018 doing YouTube videos covering crypto. I remember Sentiment during March 2020 getting all types of texts and DMs saying, is crypto going to zero? Is this the end? I remember the sentiment shift in 2020 as some alts started to recover, some recovered, and then some even did another crash before that, before the next bull run. And market sentiment is a funny thing because during the highs in 2021 when different assets were creating new all-time high prices, I remember everybody talking about another bear market and saying frankly we might not ever get another bear market because this time is different. And I remember seeing discussions about, man, if we ever get more black swans or another March 2020 and assets are back to all-time low prices, I'm going to be going all in. And the crazy thing is this bear market, we have had that for many assets. And the fact that some assets are sitting at lows or even ranging sideways even longer, it scares people. Price action absolutely affects our mentality, but what's more powerful than price action is time. We've seen assets drop 90% and then later do a 10x return. And a lot of people talk about what it takes to get a 10x, a 50x, or 100x return, and the majority of those people have never had a 100x. I understand the roller coaster of emotions that comes during the hardest days in a bear market at lows where the markets are illiquid, there's no trading volume, markets are really dry, and then going into a bull run as we transition into that summer where volume returns, liquidity goes up, orders of magnitude higher, multiple X's. And there are times in this market the risk is just too high, it's best to actually get out and have some cash on the sidelines. But the absolute best time to be in this market is before another bull run into all-time high prices. I highly recommend a lot of new people in this market overlay assets and actually look at the performance of an altcoin versus Bitcoin specifically during a bull run. Observe the different scenarios we have seen every cycle regarding Bitcoin dominance, total 2, total 3 in the altcoin market versus Bitcoin pushing into an all-time high price. We have leaders and laggards, and as we've shown clear examples on this channel before during previous bull runs. I see crypto Twitter and retail just panicking while assets are still clearly in accumulation. Do I want this RSI to pop on the weekly? Do I want to break out of accumulation and start this retracement potentially leading into an all-time high price? Absolutely. As long as I see alts like Rose, as long as I see total 2 in the altcoin market down here, we haven't broken through any levels. Yes, we're challenging, it's exciting. RSI is getting back up there, we have plenty of fair value gaps above. And even total 3, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. Yes, we're up a bit, we're challenging some previous highs, it's exciting, but we're still in accumulation. I see sentiment on crypto Twitter. Yes, some assets have done a 3, 5, 10x, and that's great to see. But people are acting like we missed the bull run and that the altcoin market is back up to over $1 trillion and we're still far from it. So no, you absolutely haven't missed anything yet. And by going to charts.cointrader.pro and overlaying different assets and just looking on the weekly time frame how they performed last cycle. When Bitcoin is pushing into an all-time high price at the end of 2020, breaking 20K, going to 30K, going to even 50K plus. During this time, while Bitcoin is pushing into new all-time highs, we saw assets like AVAX actually crash, creating a low, before then impulsing from $3 to over $100 plus. And we can see at the end of 2020 as Bitcoin finally surpassed 20K into a new all-time high price after years of reaching that level since 2017. Once it broke into a new high, we had AVAX and many other assets begin their big climb. And we've seen this pattern play out more than once in 2017, 2020, and 2021. There are always leaders and laggards in this market. Even XRP was stuck in this zone from 2013 up until 2017 before exploding, doing well over a 600x return. So the common denominator every single alt season for the greatest returns that we see across the board for the highest number of assets is when Bitcoin is pushing into an all-time high price. That has been the case for a variety of assets including XRP, which has been around and live for over 10 years. The same thing for sentiment, for Link or Chainlink. You can see it was trapped in accumulation, very boring, pump, dump, just trapped in this trading range. It was going sideways for 500 plus days. And then over the past month, we finally got that pop up to the 236, doing over a 2x. And after you see this pop, sentiment on Twitter improves, the price predictions get back higher, yeah, maybe a $100 Chainlink is more possible. And that's the same thing we see for every single asset. As it starts retracing, getting closer to all-time high prices, the price targets and price predictions will go higher. We have to remember 70 to 90% crashes are completely normal in crypto, as you can see right here, about an 88% crash. Here we also saw a 90% crash. Okay, next up, we had some big news with CZ, the CEO of Binance, stepping down as part of a $4 billion settlement with the US. So this could have very big ramifications in the crypto asset class, as Binance is one of the world's largest crypto exchanges. I encourage you guys to watch some of the interviews and just a quick summary of this whole scenario with CZ. You're going to see a few perspectives where they paint him as a very bad guy and a criminal, and then other perspectives where he just didn't really want to comply with AML compliance for the US. And I think there's a lot more speculation now looking at Coin or Coinbase's stock and shares going up in value. So we'll have to see how all of this Binance news is going to pan out. We know firms like BCG are estimating by 2030, $16 trillion of globally illiquid assets will be tokenized. We know that Swift is estimating that tokenized volumes or trading volume will be 24 trillion by 2027. We know Ripple and the company Medico estimate by 2030 the crypto institutional custody market will be $10 trillion. If we're looking at the global crypto asset class sitting just above 1 trillion today, that's a huge deal. We have some news by Ripple's Medico, and BBVA Switzerland has expanded its partnership with Medico as it seeks to accelerate its digital asset offerings to institutional clients. BBVA in Switzerland was the first Tier 1 bank in the Eurozone to provide custody and trading services for cryptocurrencies. I know talking about the future of enterprise adoption and tokenization and real-world assets tied to DLT seems like an absolute joke during a multi-year bear market, but this is the absolute future. We're going to see more and more banks making this transition. And the same thing for legislation in all of these countries. We have Hedera's mainnet surpassing over 30 billion transactions. That's a big deal, and TPS over 2,000. And check this out regarding an interview that Brad Kimes had with the CEO of Uphold. So Anders says this is very interesting since it means Uphold will offer on-demand liquidity in the most liquid corridors in the world as a start between the United States, Europe, and UK. Good with confirmation they will target the US market as expected. And Uphold the exchange will do the XRP to fiat conversion. So we have shared by Brad Kimes the interview with the CEO of Uphold, Simon. It's about 5 minutes long, but thankfully we have XRP drops that made a summary of this, and I just watched this 5-minute clip. So basically, in terms of liquidity, the CEO of Uphold thinks they're going to be starting at $5 billion a year. And corridors listed include the UK to Europe, we have UK to the US, Europe to US, UK to Brazil 2024. Uphold the exchange will become a node in the network of liquidity providers. And we have regarding Ripple payments, companies open an account on Uphold with pre-funded XRP by Ripple. And then Uphold converts the crypto into fiat and pays out to the banks, and this is a regulated activity. So thanks so much XRP Drops for the summary. And also looking at Bitcoin's price performance 365 days after the halving. So the general consensus is that after the Bitcoin halving, Bitcoin usually goes on that parabolic run, and as soon as we surpass that 50% or 618 retracement, we have always gone to an all-time high price. The question I ask myself is it possible for Bitcoin to go into an all-time high price before the halving in April? And not financial advice, this is just my opinion, but I absolutely believe that's possible. And looking at the Bitcoin price chart on the weekly time frame, as of now it looks like the Bitcoin halving will occur in April of 2024. Some websites show April 13th, others show April 22nd. This purple circle is the Bitcoin halving date. The last 2 cycles actually pumped up to the 50% or 618 before the halving date. So if we simply follow history, that would mean a $42,000 to $48,000 Bitcoin before the halving, which I don't think that's crazy. Another 13% to even as high as a 28% move. Totally possible. I mean, just remember the weekly RSI is at a high and it's in overbought, so we can get some crazy moves. And looking at the last 3 Bitcoin halvings in 2012, going through this stage shortly after an all-time high price. 2016, pumping, little crash going into halving, later on going into all-time high prices. And even our last Bitcoin halving in May of 2020, shortly after going to all-time high prices. So I totally understand anybody that thinks we have to go, well after the Bitcoin halving in 2024 and then have a shot at all-time highs at the end of 2024 or even in 2025. So just remember that absolutely anything is possible in crypto. It takes one black swan to crash this market entirely, continue accumulation, and go sideways even longer. But it also means we don't necessarily have to follow what we've done before, and we can actually go into all-time highs before the halving date. So we'll keep this video short and sweet, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and just remember that we are pending the date of approval for the Bitcoin spot ETFs and potentially Ethereum in January. If you don't believe Bitcoin goes into a new all-time high price or has no chance to break into at least one more all-time high price, I wouldn't even be in crypto. Studying history, studying the previous cycles, we are in a nascent and largely unregulated asset class. That means that utility is not driving the majority of price action, no matter how good your asset is. So that means for the majority of assets that we are waiting for Bitcoin to actually drive price action, and that happens when Bitcoin is pushing into an all-time high price. And then the idea is, as this asset class matures, as infrastructure improves, legislation and legal frameworks in a variety of countries, we can actually begin to see adoption at scale. And blockchain adoption at scale means the widespread integration and the use of blockchain and DLT across large organizations. In various business operations, supply chain, transactions, data management, etc. Not just used in isolated cases or the occasional pilot project, but fully integrated and operationalized across the industry. And that's what will take the crypto asset class from $1 trillion market cap back to an all-time high at $3 trillion to potentially $5 trillion, $8 trillion, $10 trillion, and beyond. Global equities in the global stock market is over 100 trillion. We're at just around 1 trillion today. Global bonds, 100 trillion. Derivatives, hundreds of trillions. Real estate, over 100 trillion. Commodities, a couple dozen trillion. This asset class with the tokenization of everything is going to be connecting some of these public protocols to these other asset classes that are measured in the dozens, if not hundreds of trillions of dollars. So whether or not we agree on time horizons or potential of different assets, one thing is certain is that this asset class is going to change the world. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.